Last night, while you were unconscious, your brain showed you a movie. Maybe you were somewhere impossible. Maybe someone who died years ago was standing in front of you, alive and talking. Maybe you were running and couldn't stop. Maybe it felt completely real until the moment you opened your eyes and it vanished. You knew it was a dream. You have an explanation for it. Neuroscience, REM sleep, memory consolidation, you've heard the terms. But imagine waking up 50,000 years ago. No explanation, no framework. Just the raw experience of having left your body, entered another world, seen the dead walk, faced something terrifying, and then snapped back into a dark cave beside a dying fire. The dead person was right there. You heard their voice. You saw their face. And now they're gone again. What does that mean? Where did you just go? Ancient humans didn't have an answer. But the answer they invented changed everything about how humans have thought, worshipped, feared, and organized themselves for tens of thousands of years. Let's start with what dreams actually are. You spend roughly 2 hours every night in REM sleep, rapid eye movement. Your brain during this phase is almost as active as when you're awake. It's firing across the prefrontal cortex, the limbic system, the visual cortex building scenes, generating emotions, running simulations. The content is sourced from memory, fear, desire, unresolved thought. The neuroscience is complicated and still partly unresolved, but the basic mechanism is clear. Dreaming is the brain processing the world when the world isn't watching. Here's what ancient humans had instead of that explanation. Their dreams felt real. That's the critical starting point. The emotional experience of a dream, the fear, the grief, the joy, is physiologically identical to the emotional experience of waking life. Your heart rate spikes, stress hormones release. You cry, or laugh, or freeze. The brain doesn't fully distinguish between a dream threat and a real one, which means that for an ancient human with no concept of sleep states, the experience of dreaming wasn't obviously different from the experience of being awake. It was different in content. Impossible things happened, but not in emotional texture. So they asked the only question available to them. If this is real, where am I going when I close my eyes? Anthropologist David Lewis Williams spent decades studying the cognitive origins of early human religion. His research pointed towards something consistent across ancient cultures that had no contact with each other. The widespread belief that the mind could leave the body, not as a metaphor, as a literal description of what seemed to happen every night. You went somewhere. You saw things. You came back. The body was a vessel. The self was something that could travel. This idea, which shows up in shamanic traditions across every inhabited continent, didn't come from nowhere. Lewis Williams argued it came from the experience of altered states of consciousness, including dreaming. The first humans who tried to make sense of their own minds landed on the soul as an explanation, not because they were wrong to try, because they were working with the most sophisticated cognitive tools available, and those tools were very powerful. Now think about what they actually dreamed about. Researchers who studied dream content across cultures have found something consistent. The most common dream types are universal: being chased, falling, teeth falling out, flying, and most relevantly, seeing dead people. Dreams of the dead are among the most emotionally intense dream experiences humans have. A study published in the journal Dreaming found that bereavement dreams, dreams in which a deceased person appears, are reported by the majority of people who have lost someone close. They feel different from ordinary dreams, more vivid, more emotionally charged, often described even by modern people with full scientific understanding as visitations rather than dreams. Now, remove the scientific framework. Remove any understanding of REM sleep or memory processing. You are an ancient human. Someone you loved died. You watched them stop breathing. You buried them. And then, 3 nights later, they came to you while you slept. They spoke. They seemed real. They stood in a place you recognized. Where did they come from? The answer that ancient humans developed was not random. It was logical given their experience. The dead were somewhere else, a place the living could visit during sleep. And if the dead could appear in dreams, they weren't fully gone. They had information. They had opinions. They might be angry or peaceful. They needed to be respected, appeased, remembered. This is the cognitive origin of ancestor worship, not superstition invented from nothing, an explanation built directly from the experience of dreaming. Archaeological evidence for this goes back further than most people realize. The site of Göbekli Tepe in modern Turkey, built approximately 12,000 years ago, is the oldest known temple complex on Earth. It predates agriculture, predates writing, predates almost everything we think of as civilization. And the iconography carved into its pillars, animals, symbols, figures, matches the type of imagery that anthropologists associate with shamanic trance states and dreamlike visions. The people who built it weren't doing it for practical reasons. They were doing it because something was happening in their minds at night that demanded a physical response. The dream needed a building. Psychologist Kelly Bulkley has spent his career studying dreams across history and culture. His research shows that across ancient civilizations, Egyptian, Mesopotamian, Greek, Chinese, Indigenous American dreams held a consistent status. They were not considered noise. They were considered information, messages from the divine, from the dead, from forces that operated outside the waking world. The Egyptians had professional dream interpreters. The Greeks built entire temples called Asclepions, where sick people came specifically to sleep, hoping for a healing dream from the god Asclepius. The Mesopotamians kept written dream diaries going back to at least 2000 BCE. None of this was primitive. All of it was a rational attempt to extract meaning from an experience that genuinely demanded explanation. And here's what makes this story more complicated. Some of what ancient humans believed about dreams was wrong. The dead weren't actually visiting. The gods weren't sending coded messages through imagery. But some of what they intuited was remarkably close to what neuroscience would eventually confirm thousands of years later. Ancient Egyptians believed that dreams were connected to unfulfilled desires. Sigmund Freud published his theory of dreams as wish fulfillment in 1899 and was celebrated as a revolutionary thinker. The Iroquois people of North America believed that dreams expressed the soul's hidden needs and that ignoring them caused illness. Modern psychology spent the 20th century arriving at roughly similar conclusions about the connection between repressed material and psychological health. Ancient humans didn't have brain scans, but they were paying close attention to the same evidence: their own minds. The fear component is also worth sitting with. Nightmares are not random malfunctions. Research by neuroscientist Matthew Walker shows that REM sleep serves a specific function. It replays emotionally charged memories but strips the fear response away from them, allowing the brain to process difficult experiences safely. Nightmares occur when that system is overwhelmed, when the emotional content is too intense for the brain to process cleanly. For ancient humans living with real and constant danger, nightmares would have been frequent and vivid. Predators, enemies, starvation, disease, all the threats of waking life showed up at night, amplified and distorted. And they had no way to turn off the alarm. Imagine waking from a nightmare in which a predator is killing someone you love. Your heart hammering, sweat on your skin, the image still vivid and present. You look around. You're safe. But the feeling was real. The message felt urgent. Something is coming. Something is wrong. The dream knew. That instinct that the dream was telling you something important wasn't foolish. It was adaptive. Paying attention to signals of threat, even dreamed ones, kept ancient humans alert in genuinely dangerous environments. The brain that took its nightmares seriously was a brain that stayed cautious. Natural selection didn't punish that. It rewarded it. So the entire architecture of ancient religion, prophecy, divination, and spirit belief was partly built on a cognitive system that was working correctly. The brain generating urgent signals. The mind lacking a better framework, reading those signals as messages. You still do this, not in the same way. You have the neuroscience. You know about REM cycles and memory consolidation and the default mode network. But when someone you lost appears in your dream tonight, vivid and real, you will feel something that no scientific explanation fully touches. And for a moment, before you're fully awake, it will feel like they were actually there. That feeling is 300,000 years old. Ancient humans built temples around it, shaped entire religions from it, crossed continents following the visions it gave them. They didn't know what dreams were, but they paid attention to them with everything they had. And somewhere in that ancient seriousness, they were right about one thing. Dreams are the mind showing you what it's carrying. You just have to know how to look.